What's going on, everybody? It's Titans Brawl here, bringing you your NFL recap. We had a crazy one this week, and I got to say that after this week, it's going to look like that Nick is going to look like a genius when it comes to picking games. Me fading everybody didn't work out, and Sal just continues to be Sal. That is what it looks like is going to happen here. Let's go ahead and start this off. So we started with the Giants at the Bears. The Bears had this game in total control. I don't know if you guys kept up with like how the game was going, but the Bears were in total control. Saquon Barkley goes down, looks like an ACL tear, which is terrible. And then the Giants somehow get right back in this game, super close, hit all the Bears fans like freaking out, but sneak out of there and they're 2-0. What are you guys' thoughts on that game? If you guys got to catch up on any of that, it was crazy.
Yeah, what a bad break for Saquon Barkley, first of all. I mean, the guy just can't stay healthy. I don't know if you equate that to his, unfortunately awful offensive line that he has or whatever it may be, but he just can't get through a full season. It looks like he's probably done for the rest of the year. So that obviously sucks. I still think Daniel Jones looks promising. But the bottom line is the Bears made this game a lot closer than it should have been. The fact they had a play at the end at like the 15-yard line to win it was absolutely insane. The Bears are 2-0. Their fans must be absolutely going bananas considering how they were feeling, most of them at least, when the season started.
Yeah, I feel like the Bears and the Titans kind of have a little bit of overlap in that we're both 2-0. Neither win was super pretty, but just finding ways to grind out wins. I would say that I think the Titans look better than the Bears, but there's definitely some similarities there and just how they've had, games come down to the wire both weekends. If I'm a Bears fan, I'm still a little hesitant about your long-term chances when Mitch is your quarterback, but at the end of the day, you can't be upset with 2-0.
Yeah, people love that. Like they love to think that Mitch is going to turn that corner for some reason. I'm not 100% sure there.
He is the NFC Marcus Mariota. He is. It's the way it is.
But it is. Going on to the next game. This might have been like the wildest game of the day. The Falcons-Cowboys. Falcons are up 20-0 in the first quarter, and then they do what the Falcons do and somehow lose the game 40-39. Just another. I hate this game because the Dallas Cowboy fans are going to go nuts over it, and I think that this is just the Falcons being the Falcons in this.
Yeah, if somebody's not fired after that inexcusable, basically lay down onside kick where they were just like, all right, well, let's wait till the ball gets 10 yards and then not only let you touch it, but we'll fucking just swat at it to give you a better chance of returning it. Someone's got to be fired for that play. I don't know if it's Quinn or the special teams coach, but that's just unacceptable. That division is just such a joke, that NFC East. It really is. And the fact that Dallas is going to sneak out of here and win with the way they were getting dominated basically the whole game is crazy. But Zeke looks great. I'll say that. And it's really up for grabs still. It's anyone's division. It's just embarrassing if you ask me. But
yeah, I don't think Quinn should have. I mean, I know they went on a run at the end of the year, but I just don't think they're going anywhere with him. And it sucks because, like, there's a lot of offensive firepower on that team, and they could do some things, but they just always find ways to lose. And I think, Sal, you talked about, I think that's just a sign of bad coaching. Like, he always seems to let those little details fall through the cracks. And I mean, I've never dabbled in Falcons fan Twitter, but I'm just trying to imagine if the Titans blew a lead like that, the kind of infighting and house burning that would be going on right now.
God.
Let's put it this way: I would be making takes to where people would literally. I'd probably lose 100 followers with the over exaggerated left field takes I'd be throwing out on Twitter.
Just lose the whole profile. Just get deleted.
Yeah. Trade Derrick Henry, fire Vrabel. I mean, those are all
everything. But like, and that happened week 2. Like, how can you come back from that? Like, you're at this point, you're like, oh well, the season's over. Yeah. So I felt sick just watching that for him.
Yeah, brutal. I mean, it was literally one of those situations where you're like, man, like this stuff happens to the Cowboys. The Cowboys aren't supposed to do this to people, but if they had to do it to somebody, this is the only team that would let that happen. They just always find themselves in the situation. Yeah. And they got to figure something out because they wasted a lot of talent in Atlanta, and you really hate to see it. Mm-hmm. The Lions at Green Bay, the Lions jumped up on the Packers early, 14-3. Aaron Rodgers decided to do what Aaron Rodgers does. They come back. Jones had a great game, ran for 168, 2 TDs, and they take over that game and power through. And next thing you know, they win that game by 21, 42-21, come out of there on top, 2-0. Aaron Rodgers still making love sit on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be great for Aaron Rodgers to be coming out every day and put up the stats he is. You know, when you got to imagine that in the back of the Packers front office mind, they're kind of like, well, it'd be nice if Aaron Rodgers made this switch a little easier on us by starting to regress so that it would be an easier choice to put Love in. But if anything, he seems to be just getting better and better every single week. And Aaron Jones is a stud. I thought Detroit's defense was going to hold on once they got a fairly sizable lead, but Aaron Rodgers had other things on his mind. And if he keeps playing like this, I don't know how many NFC teams can stand up to him right now, and to be completely honest. So he's playing on a mission without question.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers on a mission is a dangerous man. He's already putting in numbers that are making you think he can get the MVP here. I'll just always take Green Bay at home versus Detroit. I think they own the Lions, and unfortunately for Matt Patricia, I don't think he's necessarily long for this coaching world. I think he skated by last year, and even though they keep showing flashes, but they just can't hold on to wins and squeak out these games. They blew the lead this week. They blew it last week against Chicago. It's 2 division games. That's just tough, and just feel for Lions fans, man. They've gone through a lot, and there's not really light at the end of the tunnel yet.
Oh, for Stafford too. I mean,
Stafford too.
He's a good quarterback, and he just can't get any help. But to be honest, though, he's the one that wanted to stay in Detroit. I mean, he probably could have left if he wanted to. He wanted to stick around, and he's just gonna have to keep dealing with teams that can't help him get to the next level. And, it's really he's doing it to himself, really.
Right. It's definitely tough. Having to play 2 division games back to back right out to start the season off is tough anyway.
Yeah.
Like when I heard that it was division games back to back like that, I was like, man, that sucks for Detroit. But it's like a huge win for the Bears to be able to kind of like get that out of the way, and the Packers to be able to get a jump up. That's a huge game. Yeah.
Because Packers beat Minnesota week 1 too, so them and the Bears are in that boat.
Yeah, so it's such a huge advantage right off the bat. It makes like the next division game a must-win for the Lions. Like it's that's just a tough spot for them to be in. I don't see the Lions winning more than 6 games this year. The way they're playing, though, they're just gonna keep squandering everything away. Minnesota went to Indy. We all had Minnesota in this game. I'm pretty sure. I didn't see Indy showing up after the way that they played last week, and for some reason they decided to play. I think that this game, the only reason they won this game is because of Taylor and because Kirk Cousins decided to just Kirk Cousins and throw 3 interceptions for some reason. I don't know exactly what happened here.
Well, here we are at the end of another week where my lock not only doesn't cover, but gets fucking blown out.
Yeah.
Listen, we're going to dive into this very, very big Titan-Viking Week 3 game in a few days, but I will say this. As a Titan fan, as a Titan player, especially a Titan defensive player, you have to be chomping at the bits to be able to play this Minnesota Viking team. I watched a large chunk of this game because of the fact that I had them in a parlay with my Tennessee Titans. And it was just fucking embarrassing. It was embarrassing. This Minnesota offense is an absolute joke. Their wide receivers can't create separation. Cousins is now looking like a chicken with his head cut off. Their defense is a joke. Their coaching decisions is a joke. Their play calling is included in that. Um, listen, I don't want to. I'm not even going to speak on my takes as far as who's winning the game next week and whatever. I'm just saying this Minnesota team is a absolute fucking disaster, and I'm never picking them in any lock ever. I don't care if they play I don't care if they play a college football team. I'm not picking them in any sort of lock. So that goes without saying, and that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I thought because obviously took Minnesota too, but it did feel like a trap game. Like it's like you think they would be a little more even than it was, and they got +3, so I was a little worried about it. I did not think it would be. I thought it would be close at least, not a blowout like that. I didn't get to watch a ton of the game. I think it's weird that they're struggling so much because I mean they lost to Stefanski, but Gary Kubiak stepped in as offensive coordinator, and he's been in the league forever and he's had a ton of success. You know, that's what the Titans' offense is based off his offense. Like, it should be good. So I'm not sure why they're struggling so much. And on one hand, I'm encouraged that they suck so bad, but I'm also a little worried that the Titans are, going to Minnesota, and Minnesota's backed into a corner now. You get down 0-3, that's the, curtains for your season. So hopefully they continue their poor play that you saw today, and we can get to 3-0 and they get to 0-3.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have those 3 interceptions against us next week, like off the bat. I mean, Kirk Cousins is better than that, though. In my head, for some reason, I just don't feel like he's that bad. I don't know what happened that game, but we'll see. Buffalo went to Miami. This game seemed like Buffalo was going to kind of try to run away with it, but Fitzpatrick kept him in it.
What I tell you guys? What did I tell you?
Yeah,
The Fitz magic. He was due.
They didn't cover either, did they?
No, like Buffalo was 5.5, -5.5. They had it till the fourth quarter, and then Miami decided to score super late in this game and just ruin the whole spread for me and Sal. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Nick. I mean, you pulled this one out because you said that
it's magic, baby.
Show up, and I'd be damned if he didn't show up in this daggum game. But obviously, Buffalo still comes out with the win, which is what's most important. But I don't know. I mean, Buffalo. And we'll get into this later. But from what I've seen from Buffalo, if they're supposed to be somebody that's supposed to challenge the Patriots for the division, they got to do better than this.
Defensively, yeah. I mean, their defense is supposed to be on paper probably top 5, arguably in the league, and they just didn't put it together in key moments in the game. Josh Allen, though, looked like a superstar, though. I think he had probably the highest quarterback rating of anyone in the league this week. He had 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions. I've always been on the fence with this guy. Always thought maybe his good performances would be a flash in the pan, but I think he's going to get better and better, and he might turn into a very much above average quarterback. I'm not worried if I'm a Buffalo fan about my offense. I'm just kind of worried about my defense. They had many opportunities to close this game out, and they just couldn't do it. But again, and for them, they got the win, and that's all I care about. So,
yeah, it's kind of hard judging how good Buffalo is because like the Jets are god awful. Like San Francisco had no healthy players and still wiped the floor with them. And then Miami comes out and, they challenged the Patriots decently well last week and, hung tough this week. But I think, you were talking about Josh Allen. At least Buffalo has done a great job of giving him weapons, like having Stephon Diggs, John Brown, and Cole Beasley as wide receivers. It's definitely paying off. And I just want to see them play like a decent team before, I really get a good feel on how good they actually are. Because they haven't really been able to run the ball very well, which has been their bread and butter forever. So if their defense isn't playing up to standard and they're not running the ball, I think Josh Allen's playing better, but at the end of the day, I'm still not completely trusting him.
Right. Yeah. We'll see exactly what happens. I do want them to kind of get into some of those games where Josh Allen's going to get a little bit more tested, to get a little bit more people in his face to see if he can kind of still make those plays. I just feel like it's a little bit easier for him to make those plays in the games that they've had here recently. So I'm no disrespect to the Dolphins, but they're the Dolphins. So when the season goes along and then things get really challenging and he has to really step up, I want to see what he's got. I think Josh Allen has a lot of talent, but because of the pressure that team has on him, we'll find out if he's actually a leader or not. So we'll see. Speaking of the Jets, San Francisco goes into the Jets. They lose 52 players, and the coaches go in and at quarterback and running back, and they score 8 touchdowns themselves. And the score is 31-13. They got out of there. Easy win for San Francisco. It was originally going to be my lock. I changed it to the Monday night game. I regret it. San Francisco just runs away with this one. Easy.
Yeah. Gotta suck for San Fran, their fan base, and their organization that they have a game that basically, wouldn't have mattered if these players that they lost were in the game or not in reality. And they lose arguably their best offensive and their best defensive player, or their most important, I should say, Jimmy Garoppolo and Joey Bosa. I haven't really heard any statuses on the severity of the injuries, but I do believe I heard that Bosa seems to be probably a little bit more concerning than Jimmy G's. Either way, all you can really take out of this game is how god fucking awful the Jets are. And I think it's very legitimately a possibility that they don't win a single game this year, which I think Jet fans would be jumping for joy with, because that would mean well, actually, I don't know, because that would put them in a position to either stick with Sam Darnold or go for Lawrence. That'd be an interesting thing to debate if it gets to that point. But sad for the 49ers and who they lost, and even more sad for the Jets because they're an embarrassment.
Yeah, I think I did see that Nick Bosa, the prognosis is probably torn ACL, so done for the season, which is really tough. I think I saw Mostert has like a MCL sprain, so that might mean a couple weeks. I didn't see anything about Garoppolo, but they were blasting that turf there. It's one of those things that's hard to definitively prove that was a factor in all those injuries, because they're all kind of freak stuff, but not a great look for the stadium. We're talking about betting tips. As long as Adam Gase is there, it might just be a good strategy to bet against the Jets, because they're terrible. They have no offensive talent. Darnold is, just trying his best to keep his head above water. But, just look at how good Tannehill is playing right now versus how he was under Gase. And he's just not a good coach. And their GM was hired after Gase, so I'm sure he's licking his chops, to be able to get rid of him and get his own guy. So, like you said, Sal, I think the GM's probably like, let's just tank and rebuild. He got all those picks for Jamal Adams. Let's just start over, get his own quarterback, own coach, trade Darnold if he has to, just start fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think even if they didn't want to tank, that they still lose. I just think they're that bad.
Yeah, I don't think they could win if they tried.
I just think they're that bad. It is what it is. They're the GD Jets. It is what it is. The Rams go into Philly. I actually was surprised on how big of a win this was for the Rams. I didn't think that it would be this big, but 37-19, they go in there, and Goff goes off, and Carson Wentz I'm just not on the Carson Wentz train. I get he's supposed to be talented. I'm just not on the Carson Wentz train.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Philly held around in that game till maybe the mid to late third quarter, but didn't watch a ton of this game. But yeah, you got to wonder at this point if Carson Wentz is the guy. I think if they lose 2 more games, that there might be some discussions of giving Jalen Hurts a shot. I know they activated him today, but I had higher expectations of the Eagles this year. I didn't think they were going to run away with that division by any means, but they really just to lose the way they did last week, and then again just kind of fall apart in the second half of the game. It's just you got to be disappointed, and I would love to see Jalen Hurts in there and see if he has any kind of spark to get this team going. But we'll see. It's going to depend on how they do in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. And when they drafted Hurts, they kind of downplayed it. But, in reality, they're not drafting him that high if they don't have at least some concern about how good
Yeah.
Carson Wentz is going to be. And I kind of posed that question before the season started. I'm like, why does everybody say Carson Wentz is a top 10 QB? Like, he obviously had a great season the year they won the Super Bowl. He didn't win the Super Bowl. Nick Foles did, but I feel like he's just kind of riding off that season a little bit. He hasn't really been healthy or consistent since then. And, we saw Nick Foles, how he's been outside of the Philly situation, and when Frank Reich was there and all the stars aligned. I'm not in on Carson Wentz, and, Philly fans are crazy. So I'm sure sports radio there is just a bloodbath talking about their chances. I do like the Rams, and I feel like they kind of got overlooked a little bit this, year. Like last year they were a little underwhelming, but 2 years before that, like they were tearing the league up. And I feel like, I don't know if maybe it's because Todd Gurley wasn't hitting on all cylinders last year or what was going on, but I feel like they found their mojo back, and, they're a team to be reckoned with again.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely were supposed to be a up-and-coming team from what it was. And then when they originally signed Jalen Ramsey, the talk was, this is the missing piece to kind of take him a little bit over the hump. Sean McVay obviously is a genius. We know he knows how to coach. There's a fun stat that I think a friend of mine looked up today. He was like, if Sean McVay wants to be one of the youngest coaches to win a Super Bowl, he has to do it this year. So I don't know if they're Super Bowl ready, but I do think that they are at like playoff might upset somebody that we don't see them upsetting type ready. So
yeah. I mean, the level of talent that they faced the first 2 weeks is, I'd say, average at best. We're going to find out soon if they're the real deal, because they're going to have some opponents that are going to be a lot more have more pushback than the two they face. So
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they got. Denver goes into Pittsburgh. Another team that got hit with the injury bug, but Denver had a backup quarterback come in, had Driscoll come in and kind of showed up, almost brought him back in this game. Pittsburgh escapes, winning by 5, takes Pittsburgh to 2-0. Big Ben looked decent in this game, but at the end of the day, I mean, this was one of those games where if Denver comes back and win this game, when we talk about how Pittsburgh maybe aren't the real deal, they got to be really careful because they were teetering on that line.
Yeah, I've been saying this for weeks, and I'm sure once this comes out of my mouth, I'm going to be regretting it, because basically everything I say has been fucking having the opposite effect. But Pittsburgh is beatable. They really are. They're very beatable. I think Big Ben is going to be the main reason why they're going to be in these games, but I don't think he's 100%. I still think he's dealing with some injury. But he's one of the toughest guys in the league, so I don't foresee, unless it's something ridiculous would happen, that he would ever come out of a game. But the fact that the backup for Denver came in almost took them to the last play. I don't know. I think Pittsburgh D is a little bit overrated. But again, two games where their level of competition was not high enough to really gauge whether or not they're real deal. But what you can gauge from it is both games up until the end were fairly close. I mean, I said it last week, the Giant game, it was in grasp. They just kind of let it go at the end. But we'll see. Again, they'll have some competition to find out whether or not they can compete with the other teams in the AFC.
Yeah, it's a little interesting that Pittsburgh's defense has been struggling as much as they had. Like, they were a top 3 defense last year. And old Danny Dimes from New York and Jeff Driscoll were kind of, slicing them up pretty decently. So makes you a little encouraged on what Tannehill can do against them. I'm going to spin this in a positive for the Titans a bit, in that I know everybody's freaking out about the defense, and that's justified. Like, defenses look terrible, but I think 15 teams scored 30 points today. Like, I think defenses all around the league are just not clicking on all cylinders yet. I think I think the Titans are a little different in that we have some obvious personnel questions with some of these rookies playing, and we got guys hurt. But I think it's just a common thing. Like, we're not the only ones that are struggling on defense. There's a lot of teams scoring a lot of points out there. So we'll just stay the course. If the top 3 defense in the league is getting torn up by Jeff Driscoll, defenses are having problems.
Yeah. Yep, that's definitely what's going on. Speaking of teams scoring 30 points, here's another one here. Carolina went to Tampa Bay. Brady gets back on track, 31-17, and they run away with that one. Panthers aren't that great, so it's nothing really to brag about, but it was good to see that offense get a little bit of firepower going there. Leonard Fournette with 2 touchdowns. That looks like they're going to use him more on like closer to the end zone type situation, but he did have over 100 yards.
Yeah, didn't watch a whole lot of this game, but it looks like Tom Brady and company are starting to gel, just starting to work out the kinks. This Carolina team is nothing to write home about, so I wouldn't go on record as to say they're back in being contention for the division or even a playoff spot just yet. But it's definitely good to see them moving in the right direction if I'm a fan of them. Also, on the other end, tough to see McCaffrey get hurt. We don't know really the extent of that just yet. Just a really bad day for injuries around the league. Thank God, knock on wood, besides our team, with the exception of anything we don't know about just yet, we saw – I don't want to get over to the Titans, but we saw Clowney maybe with a little bit of a hip thing at the end of our game. But back to McCaffrey, yeah, that really sucks. He's one of, if not the best player in the league. All we can do is hope that he'll be okay moving forward.
Yeah, like you said, brutal day for injuries. I texted my cousin who's a Bucks fan. We were talking about the game a little bit. He said like 60% of the game from the Bucks perspective was excellent, 40% was pitiful. Like I think they're just working out some kinks, but he did say like in a few weeks, once this team is up and running to their full potential, they'll be good. And I think Brady's still Brady. I don't think he's at the peak of his powers, but once he's building that relationship with his wide receivers, Fournette went off today, and that defense is a lot better than people realize. Like I think in a few weeks we could see them being one of the better teams in the league.
Yeah. I mean, which is expected. We know what's coming once Brady gets comfortable and that defense really gets clicking. I expect them to make a run and they're gonna compete. I definitely expect them to next time they see the Saints, if they get especially if they get them in the playoffs, I expect that to be a lot better game than it was the first time. But we'll see what happens there. I'm not trying to get a little ahead of myself here, but this might be MVP talk here. We got Washington went to Arizona losing 15-30, and Kyler Murray is something to reckon with. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he's legit. He's basically, in my eyes, a very close duplicate of Russell Wilson, and I think he's faster than him, to be honest. So, tremendous football IQ. The man I've watched of him so far in his career doesn't make a whole lot of big mistakes. Then you add the weapons around him that he has now. They are 110%. Going to contend for this division. And I would not, if I'm at any NFC team at the moment, would not want to see them in a playoff game, especially if I'd have to travel to Arizona. As a fan of the Cardinals, you got to be completely excited that you're going to have this guy for a very long time. And God willing, DeAndre as well. They're no joke. Their defense is better than they need them to be with a guy like Kyler Murray as a quarterback. And really, the stock is rising by the minute for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I thought Kyler was going to have a breakout year regardless, and then they went and added Hopkins, which is kind of unfair in my opinion. And Kenyon Drake is a good running back to have back there. And like you said, like their defense last year, I think was a liability. And now it's just kind of they've played Washington and can't remember who they played last week. It wasn't a great team. Or no, they played San Francisco, but they had no wide receivers and no Kittle at the second half of the game. So a little toothless, but they're doing enough, and they're at least going to be average. And so with how much offensive output Kyler and company can have, like they're a good team. That's a good NFC West out there.
Yeah, that division's stacked. Depending on how bad the injuries are for San Fran, I mean, Arizona has a real shot here, boy. They're playing. They're so fun to watch. Like, it's a really fun game to watch when you get to watch those guys play. You never know. I mean, Kyler Murray's running these in from 30 yards out. Looks like a 5-yard scramble because he's so quick.
That division only has.
Good.
I was gonna say that division only has one loss, right? And that's San Francisco to Arizona.
Yeah.
Seattle's undefeated. Rams are undefeated.
Yeah.
Arizona's undefeated. That's the best division in football by far, I think.
Saying you can't even see the guy's legs when he's running because they just move so fast that it's like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he makes it look easy. It looks like he's a little bitty scramble, but he's like juking people out like he's just barely running. Speaking of beatable, I still have no idea how they let this get away. But the Kansas City Chiefs escaped out of LA with a win, 23-20. Even though the Chargers had this game well in hand, I don't know. It's just I'm so tired of Patrick Mahomes finding a way to make this stuff happen. But it took overtime to get it done. So maybe the Chiefs might have a little bit of a chink in the armor there.
Yeah, I think they do. I don't want to get ahead of myself here because I still think they're going to be probably in the AFC Championship game. But there's a blueprint on how to stop this team. And it obviously sounds too good to be true, or it sounds easier said than done, I should say. But when you get pressure on Mahomes, he isn't as good as I'd say Russell Wilson or, even right at this moment, Kyler Murray, where when he gets the pressure, he's not as accurate with his throws as some of these other guys. And you saw that today. You saw him overthrow, throw it out of bounds, things like that. It's early, so I'm not going to be like, all right, any team that can get pressure through the offensive line is going to beat him because he's shown many times to do well in those situations. But that game was there for the Chargers to win. I think Herbert looked good. I don't know if he looked great. They said after the game that, Taylor's the guy if he's healthy next week. I'd be, he looked promising though, Herbert. He made a couple big mistakes towards the end. But it's great to see as a fan of another AFC team that there is some things that can be done to slow this offense down. So that's promising.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if Tyrod Taylor actually gets his job back. And obviously it sounded kind of serious with what he went to the hospital for with, chest pains and stuff, but it seems like he's doing better. But I thought Herbert looked good. Like you said, he makes some mistakes at the end, but if you're the Chargers, you're encouraged about what you got out of your rookie quarterback. I wasn't too high on him. Maybe it's because I've got PTSD from mild-mannered Oregon quarterbacks, but Sal knew that one was coming.
Knew it.
But he looked good. Yeah, threw for over 300 yards against a pretty solid Kansas City defense. And I feel like you're moving backwards if you go back to Taylor at this point. Like, I think, I really liked Kansas City in this game, but it's because, Taylor only put up 16 points versus that Bengals defense that just was obliterated by the Browns on Thursday night. So I think you got to keep rolling with Herbert. I understand, got to give Taylor his due, and he's the veteran, but I think Herbert gives you the better chance to win, especially with that awesome defense they have.
Yeah, and he was not afraid to take some chances. He was slinging it in there, taking some shots, and completing some good passes. I mean, the kid still got acne from his hitting puberty, but he's out here swinging, man. Like, I mean, in that situation that they're in, like, why not, man? Like, it's just, you might as well just, like, build on it.
Yeah.
You took the guy that early by knowing he's going to be your future. And when he plays that well, I mean, come on. And especially since Tyrod has a chest injury, I don't see him, like, recovering from that in a week.
Yeah.
What are they going to do, put a plate on him? Like,
Well, I mean, and look, we were just talking about Kyler Murray, right? Like, a lot of the reason why he's taking off now is because he had all that experience from last year, learning the offense, taking your lumps as a rookie. I think some guys get rushed into it too quickly, but if Herbert did as well as he did this week, I think just let him ride out the rest of the year.
Yeah, agreed. Speaking of somebody that got to take their lumps and now he's a monster, Baltimore goes into Houston 33-16. They just absolutely run over Houston.
Yeah, I mean, as a Houston fan, you gotta kind of sulk and be upset that the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, you got to face arguably the two best teams in the entire league in Kansas City and Baltimore. I've seen people on Twitter say, is it safe to say now that Houston's the worst team in the division? No, there's no way I can, sign off on that just yet. But I'll say this: I've said it multiple times already. Their offensive line is very suspect. Of course, when you have a guy like Deshaun Watson under center, you always have a chance to win a game. But you saw today that, with that offensive line, if you don't give him any time to throw, he's not going to have that opportunity to help you win games. So, excited that they're struggling like they are, but they're going to have some time to gather up wins and get themselves back in the running for this division.
Yeah, I'll be. I can't remember who they're playing week 3, but I'm excited to see who it is and what the line is because I'm 2-0 in my locks against the Texans thus far.
Yes, you are.
I don't think their defense is great. Like, I think they're a good team. I think it's clear that they're not in the same tier as the top tier teams in the AFC. Obviously, since they couldn't pull out a win either time, but they just don't have that same juice. I feel like they did in their prime with Hopkins. Got some good players, but like you said, they're not going to be a pushover. Like, we struggled with the Jags today. Like, I'm still very scared of what Deshaun Watson can do to us. But at the end of the day, man, I'll take 0-2 for them, any day of the week. So I'm really thankful that's how the schedule played out. It worked well for us.
Yeah, it did. 14 wins in a row for Baltimore in the regular season. They keep on rolling, and they don't look like they're planning on slowing down at all. The primetime game of the night, and this one was really close, and really this one literally came down to a offensive lineman just not being able to stay on his feet. Patriots fall short 30-35 to the Seahawks. Russell Wilson's, if he doesn't get some MVP talk, I'm going to lose my absolute mind. Just absolutely went off in this game. DK went off in this game. Edelman obviously is Edelman, and he just continues to quietly be one of the best receivers in the league for like the past 6-7 years, but nobody talks about it. But they came up short.
Yeah, this game was a nail biter for me. I had significant money on the over, which hit very early, but Seattle -4.5, and they won by 5. So that goal line stand was my underwear was soiled after the end of that play. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but you got to question Pete Carroll's decision making sometimes. It's safe to say the goal line play in the Super Bowl, everyone knows about that. But little situations like this that I know happen more often because I do watch Seattle enough. You have the ball on a 3rd and 1, and there's about 1:50 on the clock or whatnot, and you decide to pass the ball. I don't even care what happened with the pass play. It was a horrible decision. It was basically a slant route they threw out. But to run the ball at all in that situation is unacceptable. You cannot do it. It's a 1 yard you got to gain. You have Chris Carson in the backfield. I just don't understand that play calling. It worked out in the end for everyone. But I think sometimes Pete Carroll is his own worst enemy. And, I think it cost them a Super Bowl. And I think we'll all believe that till, the end of time. So, you gotta hope that he straightens out his demons on decision making because that team's really good.
Yep.
I feel like he's just kind of a weird dude. Like, he's obviously an effective coach, has had a ton of success, but was it last week he said, Russell Wilson was basically perfect last week, and Pete Carroll was like, well, no, we got to run the ball more. It's just I think Russ. There's a good argument to be made that Russ is right there with Mahomes, I think.
Oh yeah.
And if they still want to run the ball, I understand we're in Tennessee, then we kind of have that mindset too, but I would just be letting Russ go all out all the time. You'd be a tough team to beat. I think Seattle obviously has the pass rush issues, so I'm a little suspicious of what their long-term goals could be, but when Russ is cooking, he's hard to stop. On the Patriots side, like I saw Patriots fans say that they feel better after this game than they did before because they like proved that this new look Patriots can like stick with some of the best teams in the league. And they had a goal line shot. It was a little bit of a questionable call there, but I think it would have worked if they had blocked effectively. But man, it's just when Cam is good, I think the league is a more fun place, and it's really fun watching the Patriots offense, like, and their play callers kind of experiment after just having Brady. And not only was he running the ball, I thought he was throwing the ball pretty well too. So it's good to see him healthy and back, and Patriots are going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'm glad it didn't happen. But another questionable call on the other side of the ball with New England, that play action pass to the fullback that worked a quarter before. Mm-hmm. I don't want to, you got to like think. Well, everyone and their mother knew that Cam was getting that ball. Where he was going to go was only the only part that was in question. That play that they had earlier with the play action fullback throw worked to perfection, essentially. There was no one even in the vicinity of him. Why wouldn't they go to something at least similar to that rather than doing the play that everyone believed that they were going to do? Right. Again, I'm glad it didn't happen, but another play call on the other end that is questionable as well.
Yeah, you got to do a play action and then give Cam the option to run.
Yeah, exactly.
Flat. You got to give him the chance right there. You can't just he put his head down and went for it, got flipped up, and it was just kind of over. But just not even having the option right there, it's just bananas down there. And it's weird because Belichick usually would make the right call right there. It's weird for him to miss on that. I know that Cam had ran for 2, but you gotta give yourself a chance right there, especially because you don't have another play. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I mean, but I tell you what, this game did tell me, since they were playing Seattle, who I think is a really, really good football team. What this game told me is that everybody that thought that the Bills were going to kind of just find a way to win this division might want to pump the brakes a little bit, because I do think that the Patriots are a true contender to still win the AFC East for sure. And they can compete with a lot of good teams. Lord help everybody if they didn't have 20 people that opted out before the season started. If they had everybody on the team, then they'd be even better. So I think that they still might have a shot at the division here.
Yeah, Patriots-Bills is going to be fun 2 times this year, definitely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Well, I got my lock of the week coming up tomorrow night, fellas. Saints, Raiders. No Michael Thomas for me. That's all right. 5.5. I need the Saints by a touchdown. I think that Drew Brees throws for 3 touchdowns. I think that Derek Carr has 2 interceptions. But don't listen to me because I'm 1 for 4 on Sam Says. Who cares?
You like the defenses, man. You'll hit your stride here in a few weeks. You're working out some kids.
I got to do something.
And I need to start having people pick my opposites, because if you pick my opposites, you're going to make a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
So in the flip side of things, even though my record sucks, I'm probably making people some good money, because they're like, oh, if South thinks the Raiders are going to cover, then I'm just going to put my house on the fucking Saints and they'll probably win. And you're probably right. They probably will.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Who do you have tomorrow, Sal?
He's got New Orleans.
Okay. So I'm feeling pretty good about my Oakland pick then.
Yep.
Good. I would too. You know what? I'm going to make a lock for tomorrow night right now. My lock is that Marcus Mariota will not be throwing a pass in that game. Can't lose that lock.
Pretty bold.
Can't lose that lock. Watch tomorrow. He'll somehow fucking maneuver his way off the IR and get in there for.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, he's still IR, but don't get crazy. They'll find a loophole. Like next thing you know, he'll be out there and he'll go off for like 4 TDs and ruin my damn.
Oh man!
They'll win by 4.
Twitter will have no idea what hit them if that ever happened. No idea. No fucking clue.
Dude, I had a friend over my house today, and literally he was just wearing a Mariota jersey. I almost took a picture of it just to be like, I just want to put this on Twitter just to make him go off. But I was like, nah.
Isn't it crazy now? Like wearing a Marcus Mariota like jersey in Nashville area is kind of like cultish now. It's like it's like, but everyone has them. They still have them. I see them everywhere.
Yeah. At sale on TJ Maxx. That's where I see it.
Yeah. His socks are at Marshalls.
Oh my
There you
God.
go.
Two sets for $150. So
There you go.
Oh God. Well, guys, clearly we're gonna cover. We're gonna go over the Titan win in a couple nights on our episode of Titan Brawl podcast. And obviously, everybody that watches this, you can listen to that anywhere you find podcasts. Be sure you check that out. And then we're gonna preview the Minnesota game. We're gonna talk about some things that we definitely need to work on because there's a lot that we need to go over.
there's a lot.
A lot that we need to talk about. But we are 2-0 at the end of the day, so that is a great win for us. But our job is to talk about what we see, and we're going to talk about the good and the ugly because there's no bad. There's just good and ugly. So we're going to talk about that.
There's no in between.
But that is the NFL rundown for everybody. Hopefully everybody made some money because they followed Nick. If you ain't figured that out by now, I don't know what's wrong with you. But I'm going to hit my lock tomorrow. New Orleans, go Saints.
We'll see. Taysom Hill might lead you to the promised land.
Well, we'll be back next week with the NFL wrap-up. Be sure you check out Titan Brawl on Tuesday. Tighten up.
Peace out.
Tighten up.